more established. And so I think wherever you are at today in your career, we can all benefit from crowdsourcing. So as I think about networking for today, I want to network with colleagues who are doing work that I'm doing or work that I aspire to do for that insight and inspiration so I can be the best coach that I can be. As I think about the future and growing in my career, talking to people who are doing work that I aspire to do is going to help shape my next steps in my career. So as I think about a career for tomorrow and the future oriented career advancement plan, that's going to help me too. So with that why in mind, I'd love to hear in the chat just to keep this interactive for all of us today. How has networking been helpful for you? This, I think, can contribute to our why. I'd love to hear from people. I get the benefit of talking to people experiencing a job transition on the regular basis. So I get to hear firsthand how networking helps people, especially as they're in a job transition. Oh, industry insights, growing with the cohort group. Okay, I'm appreciating too that it hasn't always felt helpful. And let's address some of that today too, in like ways that we can leverage that firsthand experience and recommendations, networking. And that was how one of our participants was able to make a career pivot a year ago. I love those stories and have so many in my time working at Carlson. Yeah, learning and meeting new people, staying connected, love it. Okay, I think most of us would say that we have benefited from networking, and yet it still is hard to do. Um, as I love studying what Gallup puts out on employee engagement, and we know that when employees are engaged, it really increases their job satisfaction. So our Gallup research emphasizes that strong connections at work significantly enhance employee engagement. According to their findings, employees who have meaningful relationships with coworkers and supervisors are more likely to be engaged in their work. I know this is not a surprise. This connection leads to increased productivity, higher job satisfaction, and lower turnovers. And I want that for you. I want that for me. I want to feel engaged and satisfied in my workplace, and the more connected I am with other people. So as we think about networking and establishing a great networking plan for the new year, what does it look like to do that within your organization if you find yourself in an organization right now? I recognize that some in this room are job seeking right now and aren't within an organization, but if you are, what does that look like? I also want to challenge your thinking around networking. I think often we consider it as like a one-to-one coffee meetup or a phone call or a happy hour or something like that. But this would be a networking opportunity that you've decided to say yes to, where you're having the chance to meet other Carlson alumni. What opportunities within your organization could you be intentional about joining, or what opportunities does Carlson have to offer that are group settings too? I also really encourage people to find a professional mentor and to build a professional board of advisors so that you are continuing to check, where am I putting my time, energy, and effort into my career? And are there ways that I could be more strategic about that? And I think doing that with people makes a huge difference. And then when you are job seeking, we know without a doubt that the research is clear that your network is going to help you get that next opportunity more than anything else. And so as I seek to support job seekers, I want them to be doing whatever is going to be most strategic. Oftentimes the job search process feels hard. And so we want our Carlson alumni to be doing the most strategic and intentional efforts. And so networking is going to be where you hear, but because of crowdsourcing, you hear about opportunities, or you have a chance for somebody to give you that referral. That would be really helpful for you. Allison, as I'm chatting away, if there are things that come up in the chat, you let me know. And so that I'm going to keep working on the slides, but I want to make sure if anybody has questions that you drop that in the chat too. Okay, so we know that the value of networking, we're going to increase employee engagement, but also that's where we're going to learn about other opportunities. Okay, but now let's talk about what gets in the way of networking, because if this was super easy and seamless, we would all have this down and none of us would be on this call today. And I need this for myself just as much too, to like make sure that I'm committed to best practices when it comes to networking. So in the chat again, tell me what's in the way of you doing this.
Nicole, we do have a question coming in from Evan. It says, how can we be both people first and strategic at the same time?
Oh, I love that, Evan. I do have some strategies for that later in the presentation and some resources as we think about that strategy piece. Because yes, this is relationship building, but also we are looking for insight, and that insight would help us. Yeah, great question, Evan. Oh, I am appreciating all of this. It can feel awkward, time, fear, not knowing what to say, feeling kind of feeling shy. It's hard to network within your company when you're remote, definitely. Um, yeah, how can we best stay in contact with people without needing something from them? Just saying hi every so often. Yeah, remote work, two-way conversation, absolutely. I hear frequently not knowing what to say. And so when networking feels ambiguous, no wonder why we shy away from that. And so my hope is as you leave this webinar today that you'll have some really concrete ideas on how you can facilitate a conversation. Yes, and at the end of it, we want it to feel authentic. When it doesn't feel genuine, that again is going to make us shy away from the experience, and it might make us even shy away from engaging in network reach outs. Okay, so everything you said is what I hear all the time. Some common barriers, lack of time, lack of contacts. It feels like a big ask from somebody else, and it's hard to ask. We don't know what to say or not, unsure what to do. So let's tackle all of those together. If you have come to any of my webinars before, you have heard this before because I really value James Clear's work around taking great ideas and putting them into action. If I think that exercising is important, and I do, and I don't have a plan to execute it, it doesn't happen. So it's not because I don't have the knowledge that exercise would be helpful for me. Physically, mentally, emotionally. I that is a yes. I understand that part of it, but if I don't have a plan to make it happen, the translation isn't there. And so number one is a time barrier. Yes, we all have limitations around our time. And so my suggestion for you is to engage in habit formation. So if you haven't read James Clear, I highly recommend this book. It's not specific to career, but the idea of how we make something a practice. So I'm just going to go through his 5 strategies really quickly. And I would be really curious as I'm going through them, if you built out your own habit formation around networking, this would be like a really quick exercise that would be a part of a takeaway for you. So James Clear recommends developing an implementation intention. So instead of saying in 2025, I'm going to network more, or in 2025, I'm going to start exercising. Instead, he suggests saying, I will make, so an example would be, I will do networking reach outs at 8 a.m. in my office on Fridays. So I have a set time. This again could be, I'm going to exercise Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right after work. So I have a set time, a set location, and I'm naming what the behavior is. What am I doing from 8 to 9 a.m.? And again, if I don't block out the time, at least with the way that my life is unfolding, it just doesn't happen. So where are those pockets? Is there a lunch hour? Is there a 20-minute window before a stand-up meeting that you block off on your calendar at a set time and a set location to do a specific thing? James Clear also recommends habit stacking. And I love this one because it is really hard. Again, I have like all kinds of New Year energy. I want to do all the things, and it's really hard to sustain that without having a really solid plan. So habit stacking is taking a current habit that you have and adding a new habit to it. So when I was starting to take a multivitamin, I was like, okay, I'm taking that next step for my health. I would forget to do it all the time, even though I like purchased the vitamin. But once I added it to my morning routine of coffee, that is a current habit that I have that is really, my neural networks are strong there. I'm wired for coffee in the morning. So after my morning coffee, I took a multivitamin, and that made it more successful to me because of building that into something I was doing. So I'm curious around kind of like your current work or life scenario. Is there a habit that you're already doing that, like after checking emails at the end of the workday, I'm going to block out this amount of time to add an ongoing habit? And then he suggests designing your environment, adding a visual cue to serve as a reminder to you. And so one of the examples he gives in his book is if I'm saving up resources to go on one of the vacations that you all listed in the chat at the beginning, if I want to go to Mexico or Puerto Rico or all these great places that were listed, I might have a picture of that on in my office as a reminder to me, like, I want to, that's important to me. That's a visual cue that I want to do it. So maybe that's the next job, or maybe it's a quote of something that's important to you around work, or maybe it's a quote around networking and the value of networking that is a reminder to you of like how much it matters to be building relationships. Humans are drawn to the law of least effort. So if this is a heavy lift, if there's a barrier or something that's in the way, we will like quickly go to whatever is easiest. So how can we reduce friction to make it easier? Again, when I think about this in as it relates to building an exercising plan, I could throw my like workout gear in my car. So after work, it's already right there. I already have my running shoes. I already have my workout gear, and I don't have that extra step of missing that. So what would that look like in terms of networking to make this the least effortful as possible, so that you can continue to do it and put the energy and time into resources? And I would say when it comes to networking, once you start networking, building on that snowball of at the end of every call, asking if there's anyone else that the individual would recommend that you connect with as you continue to grow your network or as you continue to do your job search, then you're building off of a network you already had. So I think that's one way that you could reduce some friction, is have that network work with you and for you. And then finally, using a habit tracker. And one of the things I have linked at the end of our call today is a way to keep track of your networking contacts. But James Clear would say when we see progress, it's really motivating. And once we have the like lived experience of gaining momentum doing something, we're much more likely to continue to do it when we can say, at the end of at end of this month, I had a networking call or some type of connection. I had 4, which is 1 a week, which was what my goal was. And I'm seeing that progress. That's going to give me energy and motivation um, going into the next networking calls. But we need to like build that momentum and see our success to stay motivated. So thank you, James Clear, for a couple ideas of making it something that we know is a good idea, but actually like building it into our life. Next, barrier number 2, and I hear this a lot, is lack of context. People often tell me that, um, I've like really been zoned in on my like specific organization, and I haven't had a lot of job changes. So my network is really the people that I've been working with, but I experienced a layoff, and so we are all kind of in the same boat. Or I'm looking for a new job, but I don't want to leverage my current um, colleagues because I'm not wanting them to know I'm job seeking. So what do I do? First, I remind people that people in your immediate sphere might be more helpful to you than you realize. So, my next door neighbor is not a career coach. If I'm looking for a different career coaching opportunity, I know that that's not the work that she does. However, I do not know who is in her pool of contacts. So, if I talk to my neighbor, hey, I'm looking for a different opportunity at the University of Minnesota. Do you know anybody who works there? She may have contacts that she could introduce me to, even though we're not in the same industry or we're not um, in the same line of work. So I just remind people not to underestimate your immediate sphere of people. Who is in your neighborhood, at the gym you work out at your church, wherever you're spending your time in your community, where could you have some of those conversations where people might be able to make an introduction to you? In addition, the Carlson community, this is my favorite part of my job, is seeing Carlson Connect. I want to show you really briefly. Again, if you've been on some calls with me before, I always go back to this because this is such an easy way to find Carlson alum, and that is utilizing LinkedIn. So when you are on the University of Minnesota page, the Carlson School of Management, here is a really great way to find some connections. Click on the alumni tab right here. You'll see we have 50,000 plus alumni. You can see where our alumni are working and where they live. There's all kinds of filters here. You can look at what they've studied and skills. I can also put all kinds of filters in here. So if I was interested in a role at Target, I can click on Target. I'm going to see 765 alumni. I can, let's say I wanted to do some work around data analytics. I could see who at Target is doing data analytic work. And then I can start to find people in the Carlson community. And maybe these people I don't know at all. I've never met them before, but you have the connection of the Carlson community. So let's say that as I'm scrolling through here, I see that Zach might be a helpful person for me to connect with. I can hit connect here. And I have 200 characters to say, hi, Zach, I found you through the Alumni Network on LinkedIn. Curious if you'd be open to a 20-minute call. I'd love to hear about your experience at Target and any recommendations you would have as I think about making a career change, or as I continue to explore opportunities within Target. Or I'd love to hear about your experience at Carlson, whatever it is that would be helpful to you. So we know that if we reach out to one person on this list, the likelihood of getting that conversation to happen is going to be much higher if we do that to multiple. So we often say for every 10 you reach out to, we're hoping that you get 2 responses back. So you do have to cast your net wide, but I cannot tell you how many times I have heard from our alumni. I did what you suggested. I reached out to people on LinkedIn who for industry insight. And in a minute, I'm going to talk about how you could set up that call really well. And I was able to make a connection. We had a 20-minute phone call. So, and I'll connect with the Maroon and Gold Network at the end of this call today too, just to highlight some of the ways that you can access the Carlson community. But what makes this my favorite part of my job is the way that Carlson alumni are so good to each other and want to support one another. And I'm hoping too that those of you who are on this call with us today, that you're those people that would say yes to a reach out, because I think it makes such a huge difference. And so that's another way. If you're feeling like, oh, I just do not have people in my kind of sphere right now to reach out to, the Carlson community is a great one. If you do have people, reach out to those. But in addition, cast your net wide. And I recommend doing this as well, because those 3rd-degree connections can be really powerful. All right. Oops. Okay. So we talked about leveraging LinkedIn. I also want to remind you of the Maroon and Gold Network, and Allison will drop this link in the chat, or it'll be in our follow-up materials for you. But this is, you could think about this as a way to complement LinkedIn, but it's a global network for the University of Minnesota community. It functions as essentially like LinkedIn, but it's all U of M individuals. And so that's another resource for you to connect with people who you have at least one common experience with. Now, barrier number 3, it feels like a big ask and not sure what to say or do. So even if you have a robust network, it can still feel intimidating to go through this. So here's 2 books that I recommend. One is the 20-minute networking meeting. We have a lot of our students using this as a resource right now in their programs. But depending on when you graduated, this might not have been a resource that you utilized. It's a quick read. And what I love about it is it's really, really tangible. So the suggestion here is you ask for 20 minutes because that's an easier yes for people versus a coffee meetup or something that is going to require more time. So oftentimes this is a Zoom call or a phone call, and you're going to introduce yourself and essentially give your elevator pitch. On this next slide, I have this broken down for you. So you're going to give this great first impression and talk about what you have been doing, what you are doing, or what you aspire to do, because you're going to like kind of set the agenda and set the stage and give a little intro. But then the most of the conversation, we want it to be relational. You're asking the person you reached out to tell you their career story, and you want to hear from them. So you're going to have really specific questions for them to lead an engaging discussion where you are, I'm just going to go back to this page for a minute, where you are driving the conversation, and you're thinking of specific questions that would lead you towards industry insight and inspiration, and the types of things that you wouldn't be able to find from Googling or from looking at their LinkedIn. We want you to walk away from the conversation with insight you might not be able to get otherwise. Here's where I've seen it play out with candidates that I work with. They talk to somebody about their experience at an organization, and they learn like, wow, I was like kind of hopeful about a chance at this organization, but what I learned through this call, which I did not find on Google, is that they're experiencing layoffs and that they're on a hiring freeze. And it's helpful to have that information, or they might say, I heard of another organization that's hiring, or I know somebody who made this transition, I'd love to introduce you. That's where some of that industry insight I think can be really helpful, especially if you're pivoting from one industry to another or one type of role to another to get that feedback. Um, so the focus is on asking for insight and advice and perspective versus asking for a job. But at the end of every call, I recommend, and I know I said this earlier, I recommend saying, um, is there anyone else you'd recommend that I connect with as I continue to grow my network, as I continue to job seek, as I continue to think about future career advancement opportunities, as I continue to want to be the best career coach I can be? That will then keep that snowball going for the call. Okay, so that's like structurally how you could think about a 20-minute call where it feels really good for both individuals. A mistake I sometimes notice as I work with people is that they are saying like, hey, if you hear of anything ever, let me know. And it's so open-ended that it's a harder yes. But if you say, would you mind introducing me to so and so? I noticed you were connected on LinkedIn. That's like a quick yes versus like, yeah, if I hear of something at any point in any time, I could assist you. All right, I can tell I'm getting carried away and our time is going so quickly. Okay, so as we think about career stories, here's how I would love for us to think about this. If I asked you to define resilience and I asked you to type it in the chat, I know you all would give me a great answer, and it might look something like this: the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. After this call, I have a feeling that that definition would not be super memorable. It would be predictable. But if I told you a story about, um, a time when you faced something that created some resilience, you'll remember that story. So tell me about a time when you were learning how to ride a bike. I think many of us have a bike story, or we're learning how to do some type of new skill. It's required some type of resilience. So if this was part of your story, and that is my now 10-year-old, and his experience of first learning how to ride a bike. This child was so furious. I was just trying to keep him alive, and one of those kids that I just wanted to have a helmet on at all times. But after this call, I've like created a little picture for you. I've created a little scenario that I could talk about the resilience that came from learning how to ride a bike in a much different way than if I gave you like the dictionary definition on bike riding. So as we think about being compelling and memorable, which helps so much in connecting with people, we want to tell stories over just the facts. A way that I think about this, and a Carlson alum actually used an example like this that was really memorable for me. So I'm borrowing this material, but the power of stories, if we think about it in terms of Legos, and if we look at this first image, this could be like our data. This is like your pile of skills and experiences, really great traits right there. And you can organize that into the second picture with like a resume where your skills are all neatly packaged in a little container, and it helps people kind of like understand what is in this container because it's organized. I want you to do that because that will make um, anyone looking at your marketing materials, it'll frame it and organize it. But what is really compelling is if you can take those Legos and tell a story, your career story of like what you bring. And if as I look at this image, there's like a whole story here, right? This looks like a holiday scene, and it looks like um, there's characters in this story and things are happening. Things were created as a result of the experiences or the tools here. So if there was like a takeaway today, it's setting up the structure, but it's also learning how to tell your story in a compelling way so that it is memorable. And I think that takes practice. Okay, so we want you to practice telling your stories. That's going to help it feel more genuine. Oopsie. Um, and passion filled. Also, just the repetition of it builds more concise, confident stories. So, just a quick plug, if you are interviewing, we highly recommend scheduling a practice interview for us where you're telling your career story. But also, if you're developing your brand, if you're developing your elevator pitch and you want some help with that, that's one of the things that our office can support you in. Okay, so let's practice this. I recognize that not everyone is in a place. Some of you might be driving, some of you might be in your pajamas, a little under the weather. I know this isn't for everybody, but I can't resist the opportunity for alumni to make a quick introduction, with one another. So Allison is going to put us in breakout rooms for those that are willing to jump in. We're going to do this for about 6 minutes. But if you could share your name, how you're spending your days, work or otherwise right now, share a networking goal that you have or how networking has been helpful to you right now. And then you could share your LinkedIn profiles with one another. I recognize that we're going to do about groups of 4. And so everyone will have like a little less than 2 minutes to give a little quick snapshot, a quick intro, but I would love for you to walk away today with like making some connections with alumni and even just kind of processing what we've talked about so far. And then when you come back, I have all kinds of resources to send your way. So Allison will drop these questions in the chat for you, and then I will see you again in a few minutes. Let us know if anyone needs help getting into a Zoom room. And if that's not for you right now, we support that too. And then the Zoom rooms are not recorded.
Do you want to pull people back around 12:41?
Yeah, because then I'll have 5 minutes for to go through the resources. I'm gonna have to go through them really quickly.
We have at least 2 people in every room.
Oh, good.
Some have 4, some have 2, some have 3, but no one's alone.
We have the prompts in the chat for them. Oh, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
They might not be able to see it. I'll see if I can broadcast a message.
That might help because sometimes if they can't see it anymore. Thanks.
Did you get that message?
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah, came
limits
through.
it limits the characters for some
Oh,
reason. So I was
okay.
like,
Can we do the where they get the like 1 minute countdown to come back?
Yep, do you want me to do it now?
Let's do it. Just I want to make sure I can get through the other content.
Sounds good. I'll do it right now.
Thanks, Allison.
For about a year now. So
Okay, I think we're back. Is that true, Allison? Is everybody back?
Everybody should be back.
Welcome. I'm guessing that felt very rushed, but just an indicator that we need the 20-minute networking meeting so that you can have a more full conversation. But I hope you at least got to do a quick connection with a Carlson alum. Also, I was just getting caught up on the chat while you were in your groups. And Aaliyah, you were the one who told Maggie about the career stories. That's amazing. I'm just
I
doing a quick
was,
shout
and
out for that.
I really love it. I really recommend it. And the way
Oh,
she talks about networking is great because she talks about it as like hospitality, like treat yourself, take the approach of being the host and making other people comfortable, and then you take the onus sort of off of yourself and feeling self-conscious. And she just has a lovely approach to like showing up as yourself in your professional life. So
I love that so much. Thank you for the, well, first of all, for introducing it to our team, but also for the endorsement of that, because I think as we look at the barriers and where it does, when it feels awkward or doesn't feel genuine, it makes us not gravitate towards doing it. So I think to have an inspirational source to help us think differently about it can make a huge difference. So thank you for that. Okay, well, I recognize that that was just a quick way to do an intro. And as we wrap up our time today, I just want to elevate and highlight the many resources that you have available to you as a Carlson alum. We want you to stay connected with the Carlson community. Here are a handful of ways that you can be doing that. We want you to come to our alumni events and networking opportunities. So I highlighted a few for you and just sending a reminder of where you can find these alumni events. And this is just a handful of ways that you can get connected with some upcoming events and our Carlson community. I will be continuing to offer all types of programs. So I should say myself and our team. So if you need a resume refresh, join us on January 24th. We will link that up for you if that would be helpful. That is a quick update. Your resume, do that refresh. But again, we're available for appointments for follow-up with you. I'm also starting a job search group. I've led a handful of them. And this is a great way to join to get fresh perspectives, the chance to hear from other people who have survived the search. It can be hard and long. We don't want you to go it alone. And then just reminders of Carlson's best job search strategies and resources, and then connection point with other alumni like you got to do today. So those are some upcoming events. A couple other things, our website is up to date with our trusted career resources. And so we want to just remind our alumni that that is available to you. In addition, we have ongoing learning opportunities. We have partnered with Jeremy Schiefling, who is a very well known in the business schools and careers. And so we have a free masterclass that you can utilize to update LinkedIn. Think about leveraging your job search through LinkedIn and then also just all your marketing materials. So that is like an on-demand class that you have access to as a Carlson alum that we have purchased for our alumni community. We've also partnered with Blue Steps. They they're an executive search firm. We're not endorsing their firm specifically, but we love their resources and you have access to that too. And if their services would be helpful to you, you would get a discount as an alum. Also, we offer free lifetime coaching. So if any of this you want to unpack further, wherever you're at in your job process, this is how you would get connected with our services for one-on-one coaching. We also have Carlson executive education classes, and as a Carlson alum, you have a 40% discount. We also have opportunities for through the Minnesota Dislocated Worker Program. If you are job seeking and want to utilize these classes, that is an opportunity for you too. And I can give you more information on that, but I just want our alumni to know of these really great opportunities. Also, we talked a lot about networking today, and I wanted to leave you with some resources. So this will be linked up for you, a networking tracker, some ways we think about networking, some books that I recommend, and where to get connected with some community LinkedIn groups. So as we wrap up for today, I know we're just about at our time. I recommend identifying your why. Let that drive your commitment to networking in 2025. Alignment of values and time creates more consistency and longevity than anything else. Reframe networking as crowdsourcing, that you're seeking these connections to gain industry insight and adding to your professional network that way. When we think about making anything a habit, starting small and easy would be my best recommendation. When I think of people who are doing this really well, and several people come to mind, they have made it a priority and they've blocked off time to do it. Practicing the 20-minute networking meeting and utilizing career stories to let that guide your time so it feels less ambiguous, so it's focused and that you're optimizing that time. And then utilize our Carlson connections and resources. So again, as we wrap up today, as you think about the value of what networking, where you're at personally and professionally, what is something you can commit to doing in the next 7 days to take this from a good idea to something like a should do to I can do and I want to do because. So I'd encourage you to jot that down. So like mark the moment. You've invested this time today in like turning good ideas into action. Is a challenge I'd have as we wrap up. If you're interested in joining our Alumni Career Services email list to stay up to date on our latest resources and tools, you can fill out this form and we'll add you to our list. We would love that. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Also, feel free to email me with any questions that you have. And then as we wrap up for today, Allison will drop a exit survey for you. We'd love to hear from our alumni of what's helpful about the webinars we offer, what things we could do to improve, and then any other types of programs that you think would be useful to you on your career journey. And we're just grateful for the Carlson Family Foundation in their funding of these resources. So thank you for joining today. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'm wishing you the absolute best on your networking journey. We're here to support you if you need anything along the way. Thanks so much.